good morning, and thanks for your time. Just your sentiment of the IFP and why it thinks that the death penalty will actually solve our problems, especially as we deal with the possible murder of 9-year-old Miguel Lowe.
Well, good morning, Yuveka, and good morning to your viewers. I think this talk about finding proper punishment to fit a crime has been something that's been absorbing our minds for a number of years. But of late, in consultation with our constituents on the ground, during the constituency period, we found that a number of people have been asking us as members of parliament, why don't you talk about bringing back further deterrent so that these criminals don't continue with this kind of callous crime that they're involved in. And one of the deterrents is that they talk about is the death penalty or capital punishment. And what we've asked as the IFP, that there should be a national discourse on this matter, so that let's get South Africa talking about whether or not the deterrents that are in place at the moment and whether the judicial system is capable of handling these criminals who perform these heinous deeds on mainly young children, women, and the helpless people.
Mr. Singh, I mean, like you say, we need to start talking about it. Many arguments over the years, and I suppose one of those will be, how do we know we haven't made a mistake if we put somebody to death and he was never really the right suspect, the right person? He wasn't the person who committed the crime. And we've known of stories. I mean, just recently we featured a story of someone who was accused of rape, only something like 14 years later has cleared his name because he studied law while in prison. We have to factor those kinds of occurrences into this argument.
No, you're quite right. I mean, that incident is a classic example of what could go wrong. But what we are saying is possibly the debate could center around the fact that, when somebody is convicted by a panel of judges sitting with assessors, and it's proven beyond not reasonable doubt, but any doubt, that a person has committed a particular crime, he's taken away the life of the other, should the option of capital punishment not be there on the statute book. So these judges and assessors could apply that particular sanction when it's necessary.
And the other argument, and something that's occurred, is that when somebody is committing a crime of this nature, are they really thinking about what might happen? When they're committing this crime, they're not really thinking that they're going to get caught at all. So do you actually think that this will also be much of a deterrent, given that some give in to urges, some find it an uncontrollable urge or that they have to satisfy when they commit such heinous crimes, and they're not actually thinking, one, about being caught or what might happen if they are caught?
In many instances, we look to the perpetrator and the rights of the perpetrator, which is enshrined in the Constitution. But we also got to look at victims' rights. I mean, you get families that are emotionally traumatized, especially when young children of 2 and 3 years old are brutally murdered in the way they are. You get other families that of older people who are just gunned down for no rhyme or reason. So what we are saying is the current a punishment that is meted out, which is in most instances life sentence, appropriate? Let's talk about it. Let's see whether or not any other kind of punishment would be suitable to deter some of these people from committing these crimes, because in many instances it's not only people that are mentally disturbed or come from socioeconomic poor backgrounds, but it's people who really know what they are doing. It's cool, it's calculated. In the case of Miguel, we know that the individual that has been is before court had planned this so well, and yet didn't come up with any clue to the family that, well, this is what I did, and your son is buried in a particular spot. Now, this adds to trauma. So whilst one respects the rights of individuals, of the perpetrators, also the rights of victims have to be, and the rights of South Africans have to be taken into account.
And what about our commitment to reforming and rehabilitating perpetrators, Mr. Singh? And also some who might say putting them to death is actually the easy way out, because they don't live long enough then to suffer the consequences of their actions. The
question to that, Yuveka, is rehabilitation working? is reformation working? Is our judicial system up to the task? Are our police men and women trained enough and equipped enough to deal with these kinds of criminals? Do we have a social justice system? Do we have a social welfare system that can deal with these kind of people that commit these crimes? So possibly in this discussion and this debate and in this national discourse, there could be other ways that could be found to deal with this issue. We are at war. South Africa is at war, and criminals are certainly having the upper hand at the moment. If you look at the kind of high caliber firearms that many of these criminals use, I mean, we just can't cope. So something's got to be done with the parole system, with the judicial system, with having better prosecutors, because in many instances when these crimes are committed, you get you get lawyers who are hired at very high cost and even provided by the state that defend the perpetrators and get them off the hook, whereas families would know that this is the individual that committed this particular crime. So I think we need to relook at the entire judicial system as part of this national discourse.
All right, thanks very much. And I suppose it is a debate that will rage on for decades. And as we leave you, Mr. Singh, just like to wish you a very happy birthday. Little birdies told me in my ear it is your birthday, so do enjoy the rest of your day.